The following program is intended for mature audiences.
What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Tyrod Taylor, Cleveland Brown, yeah.
Which, but did you hear what Hugh Jackson already said about Tyrod Taylor?
No.
He is the starting quarterback for next season, no matter what.
No matter what.
Jesus.
So let's say that the Eagles lose their minds and decide, we're going to go with Nick Foles.
You want Carson Wentz?
You want Carson Wentz? Nope, we got Tyrod Taylor, thanks.
Well, I think what he means to say is, barring anything different, assuming that they're going to pick a quarterback with one of these two picks, that quarterback is not going to start next year, no matter who it is.
Well,
and no matter how good he actually is.
We'll see. God.
I mean, again, it's something that I understand where the Browns' heart is at there. They see what happens. They know that they're not great. They're not going to try to throw one of these new quarterbacks out to the Lions, right?
Sure.
Just be torn to shreds. But if that quarterback is legitimately good.
Well, it's kind of like what you have been saying all along, Zach, which is that in this day and age, you get a stud quarterback and then you have them sit for a year or two is no longer viable. Like we've seen what happened. Like, okay, Goff had a rocky first year, but he turned it around almost immediately as soon as he got a coaching staff worth a damn. Carson Wentz won out in his first year and had an amazing season. Like, you don't need to sit these guys. If you have a quarterback if you draft a quarterback who's ready to go, you throw him out there.
Well, when's the last time sitting a guy actually worked? By that I mean where
I can tell you the last time it worked. And it's two guys who are actually parallel, and I think and these two guys it worked, and I think it's the last time it actually did work.
Okay.
Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning. Rivers sat behind Drew Brees in San Diego for his first few years, and Manning sat behind Kurt Warner for his first year.
Well, I was going to throw Aaron Rodgers in there too. He sat behind Brett Favre for a year or two.
Yeah, I put an asterisk next to that, though, because they probably should have just put Aaron Rodgers.
Probably. But that's the thing. You're absolutely right. It's in this day and age, the NFL turns over too fast now. You can't groom a guy because a team, and hopefully for the Browns, this is the case with them as well, but a team that's terrible last year could be good this year. You can't wait around for things. I don't know if that's maybe not part of what the Browns' problem has been, is that they're always planning for 5 years down the road in a league where you really have 2.5 years at most to get anything done. And then it's either you're going to get a new coaching staff, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, if you want to go with Tyrod Taylor, that's fine. But if you get a guy, like say if they draft Josh Allen, just for an example, and he turns out to be good, what's the point in sitting him behind Tyrod Taylor? If Tyrod Taylor was going to take a team to a Super Bowl, he would have done it already. And he's certainly not going to do it with the Cleveland Browns. So what's the point?
And it's just one more – look, I don't hate Tyrod Taylor. Far from it. He was the backbone of the Chicago Cardinals fantasy CFA team. We had and I had Casey Keenum as my backup when Tyrod Taylor went down. So I got into the playoffs playing very stupid fantasy football. So did Greg. We had no business being there.
Right.
Was your starting quarterback?
Oh, God, I don't even remember now. It was one of the McCowns, I think.
Yeah, you had Josh McCown playing for the Jets.
Yeah, it's silly to sit back and let a guy rot on the bench, especially in a league where your average career is 5 years long. Why waste two of it with a guy that you've got that's good, maybe good? And I don't know, Tyrod Taylor, and if he wants to stick to that, that's fine. But I'm with you guys that if the new kid they get can play, let him play. I don't know what you're gaining by not.
But at the same time, if you're the Browns and you have nothing, okay, they have wide receivers now. which is the thing, right? So they traded they got Jarvis Landry.
Right.
They have Josh Gordon, who, if he can, stay off the lamb, he's fine.
Yeah, I don't know though. That's the thing that you can't really bank on Josh Gordon. But right, if he works out, then yeah, you've got a decent receiving core.
So you've got a decent receiving core, but now you even lose Joe Thomas, who finally retires. What offensive line are you supposed to be putting out there?
I don't know.
And if some of the reports are true, where they want to take Saquon Barkley number 1, and then they pick, one of the quarterbacks at 4 or whatever. Again, what offensive line is going to open up holes for him at running back or protect the quarterback? That is.
Well, and in this day and age,
that's going to hold them back, and you need that.
In this day and age, too, I don't care how good Barkley is. Do you really take a running back with the number 1 overall pick? I would.
No, Trent Richardson. Come on, Trent Richardson. Jeez.
Yes, the Browns should know this.
Well, yeah, exactly. He was number 3 pick or something like that.
They should know this, but isn't repeating that same mistake just what they do?
Well, they're basing it on Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, that's great. Fine.
How high was Ezekiel Elliott? He was
drafted but he was a first rounder. But here's the thing. Name me the best 3 Penn State running backs in NFL history. Get back to me in 3 hours. It's going to take you that long to find 3. It's just you don't take a running back number 1 overall in this day and age ever, period. I don't care who he is. So that's a bad idea. Plus, the Jets have traded up to 3 now. So if you want your choice of quarterback, if you go with Barkley at 1, you're going to be picking out of one of the guys you want is going to be gone by the time you get to 4. I don't know.
Two of the guys you want.
Yeah, 2 of the guys you want are going to be gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's true too. I would think that the Jets making that move kind of forces if the Browns are smart, it would force their hand to say, okay, we can't take Barkley now. If we can get him at 4, then we'll get him at 4. But we have to take the quarterback first.
Right. And I don't know. Okay, you've got the Browns at 1, and then who's at 2? San Francisco. Right? No. They played their way right out of that with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Is it the Giants?
It might be the Giants. Okay.
Hold on. I'm pulling it up right now.
But okay, the Giants are
oh yeah, it's Browns, Giants, Jets.
Okay, so are the Giants going to take a running back with the number 2 pick overall in the draft?
No.
Probably not.
No. And you would think that they'll take a quarterback,
right?
Because Eli's almost done.
And then you've got the Jets sitting there. They're not going to take a running back at 3, especially when they need a quarterback. So you could be fine in taking your quarterback 1, making sure you get the one you want, and Barkley's still going to be sitting there at 3 or at 4, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I don't know that there's a team out there that's dumb enough to take a running back number 1 overall. That's just I don't like that idea at all. Running backs, it's not the same league it was even 10 years ago.
No. If you're the Browns, you have to take your quarterback first. And then if you really are that sold on Saquon Barkley, he will still be there at 4.
Well, look at the Super Bowl champions from the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, you had the Eagles last year. I don't even know who their starting running back is. I know they had Jay Ajayi, they had LeGarrette Blount, but none of them are like a workhorse type Ezekiel Elliott type back.
And the Patriots, outside of LeGarrette Blount,
right?
They never had a workhorse running back.
The Broncos, when they won it a few years ago, I don't remember who their running back was, but it was I know his name, I can't think of it. But the point being is that none of these guys were like the Ezekiel Elliott style back because there aren't that many of him anymore.
No.
And what made him great with the Cowboys wasn't – I mean, sure, he's talented, but they had a great offensive line, and that's the difference.
Yeah. And I'd say that, I mean, there's no further evidence to this than look at the Rams, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Todd Gurley has an amazing breakout rookie season, right? And people are crowning him. He's the next big thing. He disappears for a year, 2 years, because the Rams sucked.
Yeah.
They couldn't protect the quarterback. They couldn't open up the line, and he had nowhere to go. And then you finally get this season where the Rams do get an offensive line. They have a quarterback that can, operate the offense. They're able to open up holes for him to run. He's able to catch balls out of the backfield, and all of a sudden he's an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
Sure, pick Saquon Barkley if you think he's going to be a Todd Gurley type. If you think he's going to be Adrian Peterson in his prime.
Yeah, but I just.
But if you don't have the line, it does not matter. It will never matter.
No.
As much as we point to the quarterback being the most important position in sports, offensive line is not that far behind, because you need a good offensive line for any of this stuff to work.
I contend that, okay, as a single position, sure, quarterback's probably the most important, but if you're building a team, nothing's more important than the offensive line.
Yep.
And right behind that, I would put defensive secondary. Because if you can't protect your quarterback and run the ball sometimes, and if you can't stop a passing game, you're wasting your time. But look at the good teams.
Well, I mean, hell, just look at the Rams. Look what the Rams have done. The Rams built up that offensive line last year, and they were pretty good. They had a good defense, and they were okay. But when it came down to it, they couldn't get the Falcons off the field on third down in the playoff game. So what did they go do? Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, Sam Shields. They beef the hell out of that secondary because they know that that's what you need to do to win. You have to get off the field on third down, and you have to be able to run the football.
Well, look at the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles are a perfect example of what we're talking about. Okay, they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Why? Because, well, I mean, again, now, neither defense played what I would say great football in the Super Bowl, but getting there, the Eagles are able to do exactly what we're talking about. And it's just, I don't know, a running back at number 1 overall is just a bad idea. There's too many out there, and this guy, he might be a once-in-a-generation talent. I don't think he is. But even if he is, so what? That's not what you need. You know?
Even if you do pick him, but you're in the position now where you could pick any of the quarterbacks. And maybe that's part of the thing is they don't want to have to make the decision and make the wrong choice, right?
That's fair.
But if you do it the other way around, then you don't get to make the choice. You get what's left to you.
Yeah.
Which isn't a good spot to be in.
Look, the Browns to me, and we've done this a few times where we've kind of gone over their draft history, and we've seen the decisions they've made. They seem to outthink themselves a lot.
Right.
Like, they could have had Carson Wentz, but they outthought themselves, and now it seems like they're outthinking themselves again. No. Just stop being stupid, take a deep breath, and just do the simplest thing.
You know,
what is the simplest thing? Like, what? Just pick the best player, the best position that you need.
If Zach is right and they don't want to be faced with having to pick between the 3 guys that are out there, okay, fine. Trade that number 1 pick for some offensive line help or picks later in the draft, and then take what you can get it for, and don't worry about it. Whatever you do, don't draft a running back. That's my point.
I think what all this points to is, you know, if all 3 of us can see this, you would hope that maybe the Browns have finally found some common sense and they see it too, and that they have a plan in mind where it's you know they're going to pick the running back and the quarterback that they want, fine, and they're going to sit the quarterback, maybe not play. You know, Saquon Barkley will probably play a little bit, but who knows how much. You let Tyrod Taylor play, and you concede that you're going to have another shit season. It's like we get it. We're going to do this again, and they also know because they need an offensive line, but they need to get the skill players in position, and they can build the line later. So they're going to save the skill position guys and build the line either through free agency or trades or the draft next season or the later round picks this season, and just see what happens. That would be the only thing that would, if the Browns are thinking smart, this is what their game plan would have to be. Otherwise, I don't know what their point is at that. You know, what are you going to do?
Whatever it is, whatever the decision is they make, it'll be the wrong one. I know that much we can count on. But it's besides them, I mean, there's been some interesting stuff going on in free agency.
Kirk Cousins is a Minnesota Viking.
I think that's a great spot for him. Actually,
I do too.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, he is kind of like Casey Keenum, but better.
Right.
So, you know.
Well, and Keenum goes to the Broncos.
Cashes in, goes to the Broncos.
Yeah, I don't know about that move. I think the Broncos could have done better.
They probably could have, but at the same time, I'm going to give it up to Casey Keenum for turning a surprise season into a cash grab. Good on him.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, he got his money.
Yep, he's in the Matt Flynn, I forget the other guys, but yeah, those guys.
The Matt Flynn Hall of Excellence.
Right, exactly.
I mean, fuck! All he has to do is stink up a training camp, and he could just sit and collect his money while holding the clipboard.
Yeah.
Trevor Siemian, he's now the backup in Minnesota, essentially switching places with Case Keenum.
Yeah.
So it was a trade, but not.
The Broncos were you think about it, where they were now after Peyton Manning left, and it's like, well, no, we have Trevor Siemian. Oh wait, he's not good. Oh, Brock Osweiler, we're not paying him money. Paxton Lynch, oh, you're injured. Okay, great. Okay.
Osweiler again. Oh, he sucks.
Hey, John, would you like to come out of the front office and suit up one more time?
He couldn't have been any worse.
And now it's Casey Keenum.
Case Keenum. God, if he turns back into the Magic Beans, it'll be pretty hilarious.
Jeez, like Peyton Manning retiring is like the worst thing that could have happened to the Broncos.
Yeah. I just don't know that. I mean, I know that Keenum had a good year and all that, but this is exactly what I'd be worried about if I was a fan. I mean, I'm glad he went to Denver because he's not with. Well, I didn't have to worry about it because Aaron Rodgers isn't going anywhere. But if I was any other team out there that needed a quarterback, I would be thinking, I don't want this guy because he's basically done what Mike said. He's cashed in on one good season, and I'm not ready to think that that's going to be. I think that's the aberration. I don't think that's like Case Keenum coming into his own and going, okay, this is how good I actually am. I mean, he had a lot of good talent around him in Minnesota, and that makes a big difference. I don't know. Maybe Denver's got the talent, just needed a quarterback, but that's not the guy I would have gone with.
No, I think it was one of those things where the situation all worked because Case Keenum's had his shots.
Yeah.
Yes, they haven't been with the greatest circumstances in some of these places, but he still never showed anything in Houston or in St. Louis or LA that showed that he was.
Yeah, and there were some talented teams he played for in Houston. I mean, not Super Bowl caliber maybe, but good enough that if the guy was a good quarterback, it could have made a difference.
Yeah, and he was a great college quarterback. Set all his records at Houston. With the Cougars, but college success doesn't mean anything in the NFL. It just doesn't.
No, I mean,
especially at a small school like that.
Yeah, I mean, at Houston, you had a lot of guys that were great at Houston that turned out to be nothing. I mean, there was what's his name, Andre Ware, that the Lions wasted a first-round pick on, and who was the other guy from Houston? I can't think of. Oh, David Klingler, going way, way back. The Bengals, of course, wasted a first-round pick on him, but. I don't know. Case Keenum, not the guy I would have gone with. And if I'm a Broncos fan, I'm going, we couldn't do any better than this? I mean, did they even talk to Kirk Cousins?
They were in on Kirk Cousins. But I guess Cousins just chose apparently it came down to Arizona, Denver, Minnesota.
But if you're Washington, wouldn't you – I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing something or they're seeing something that I'm not. But – I'm going to take Kirk Cousins over Alex Smith if I'm the Redskins.
Well, Washington didn't want to commit to him.
But they want to commit to Alex Smith?
Right.
Right. And it doesn't make any sense, but they kept putting him on those franchise tags. And Kirk Cousins didn't really mind at the end of it because he was getting paid hand over fist with the franchise tag. But at a certain point, I get the point where you're like, I kind of want to just be committed here long term and not have to worry about this every single year. And the Redskins didn't want to do that. So they went with somebody that I guess they think is going to be consistent. Whether he's better than Kirk Cousins or not, he'll be consistent. You know what Alex Smith is going to give you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's enough, but he's going to give you a certain level of play.
I mean, I guess from that aspect, sure, he is a little more consistent than Cousins. But when Cousins is on, he's really good. But he can also be really, really bad. And Smith is kind of more, not quite as extreme in either direction. I don't know. To me, I'm taking Kirk Cousins over Alex Smith.
And then the other two big quarterback moves, you get Teddy Bridgewater goes to Houston.
To sit behind Watson?
Or did he go? Where did Bridgewater go? I thought he went to Houston.
Let's find out.
No, he went to the Jets.
Okay. I kind of like that move, I think, for the Jets.
Nah, it's fine. It's a good one. And then they finally have a quarterback.
They're basically doing the Tyrod Taylor thing with Bridgewater, it sounds like. They're going to let him play while they groom their other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is too bad for Bridgewater because he was actually pretty good.
I thought he was a good quarterback. I remember when he was available in the draft, the year the Browns took Johnny Manziel. I'm like, no, we want Teddy Bridgewater. That was the guy.
The Browns commissioned a study that said Bridgewater, and then they took Manziel.
Right.
So they actually paid to get told.
Well, the Vikings are such a funny situation right now because you had Case Keenum, who essentially, came out of nowhere, pushed out Teddy Bridgewater. Well, Bridgewater was
injured, yeah.
But pushed Bridgewater out from re-signing, essentially. Also pushed out Sam Bradford, who both found new homes, and then Case Keenum went somewhere else, and now the Vikings have Kirk Cousins. It's this weird carousel.
Well, yeah, the Vikings, they were, I think, wasn't like all three of their quarterbacks from last year were able to move, like, were free agents this year, right?
Yeah, so Bridgewater's a Jet, Case Keenum's a Bronco, and because the Arizona Cardinals don't know how to run a fucking franchise.
What the hell? How did all these guys get away? They still don't have anybody?
Well, now they have Sam Bradford.
So, like I said, so they still don't have anybody, basically.
Right. They've refused to draft quarterbacks over and they keep finding these, like they had Kurt Warner, who was old, but hey, he was serviceable.
Took him to a Super Bowl.
But yeah, he was still old at the end of the day, and when he was gone, they didn't know what to do. They had no replacement. So then they signed Kevin Cobb for that ridiculous amount of money.
I remember that.
They went through that carousel of guys that sucked. Your Derek Andersons, your Max Hall, John Skelton, et cetera. They finally get Carson Palmer, who again
was old.
And he's in all this time that they went from Kurt Warner through all of these guys, they never took the time to actually draft and groom a potential future starter.
Where are they?
So now they're sitting here picking up another guy that's coming off 2 ACL injuries in Sam Bradford that you're just going to wait to catch on fire and have Drew Stanton be your backup? Like, that's another team that needs to draft a quarterback in this draft.
Where are they drafting?
Not going to do it high. I don't know. They're not going to be able to get one of the top picks, but they need something. They need to get somebody somewhere in this draft to.
I want to see where they're picking the draft order.
They are 15.
Yeah. Maybe you might. Maybe I'll tell you what. If he was there, I would take him if I were the Cardinals. As Baker Mayfield might still be there at 15. Probably will still be there at 15.
So here's ESPN's Todd McShay, his mock draft right now. He actually has Josh Rosen being able to drop all the way down.
I can see that too. People have kind of cooled on Rosen a little bit.
Yeah, and so here's the quarterbacks that we have that are viable. You have Sam Darnold of USC, Josh Allen out of Wyoming, Baker Mayfield. His stock has risen a bit in recent weeks, and Josh Rosen. So you have these teams at the top that are probably going to take the quarterbacks that they want, right? And then you got to hope that somebody falls down to you. I think if the Cardinals are smart and one of these quarterbacks drops down to them or is available even at, say, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
I think you have to think about moving up to get somebody if you're the Cardinals.
I think so too, because I don't think the Cardinals are a bad team. I think they've still got some talent. I look at them like the past 3 or 4 years and I think Palmer wasn't terrible.
No, but he that he has an expiration date.
Right, and he was brittle and he got hurt a lot and stuff. But I just think that team, especially say 2-3 years ago, they were really talented. They were just a better quarterback away from being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Mm-hmm. And
so here's the go for it.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, and they've blown it by not addressing that need for a while now.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the draft order, and it's kind of weird because you have a lot of these teams that are underperforming or have quarterbacks like waiting in the wings. So the top of the draft, obviously, there's the Cleveland Browns who need somebody. The Giants know Eli is eventually going to be done, but how do they just stick behind Eli? Do they take a quarterback? Who knows? You have the Colts who have Andrew Luck, not going to do anything there. The Broncos just signed Case Keenum, not going to do anything there. The Jets just signed Bridgewater. Are they going to get a QB? You would think so. The Buccaneers have Jameis.
Right.
The Bears have Trubisky. The Niners have Garoppolo. The Raiders have Carr. The Dolphins. The Dolphins could probably use one. I don't know how much longer they want to be on the Ryan Tannehill train.
That's my thinking. The Dolphins could, again, if you get a guy like a Josh Rosen, if he's dropping down to that level of the draft, you got to take him, right? Yeah. If you're the Dolphins sitting there and he's there, I mean, you got to take a shot.
Cincinnati has Dalton. The Redskins
now
have
rumor around here is
Smith.
that the Bengals are maybe done with the Dalton experiment and ready to move on. Yeah,
but he's still a productive quarterback. He's not the problem with that team, I don't think.
No. No, they've got a lot of problems, and if he has a problem, he's just one of many.
Redskins still have Alex Smith. The Packers still have Aaron Rodgers, of course. Even the teams that are right behind the Cardinals, the Baltimore has elite Joey Flacco. The Chargers have Phil Rivers. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Cowboys, on and on. So I think that they're, one of these quarterbacks is going to drop. Maybe two of them could start falling down the draft order a little bit. Then you have the teams like Miami, Cincinnati, Arizona that are going to be maybe looking to trade up, maybe looking to get one of these guys, out ahead of them, that sort of thing.
I'm looking at the draft here. Okay, let's say if the Browns the Browns are going to take one of these quarterbacks. Pretty sure. Then again, you never know. But I'm going to say that they're going to take one of the quarterbacks. Then you get to, the Giants are really the ones that are going to make it interesting, because if they don't take one, then you're going to have the Jets sitting there. But after that, you got the Browns again. The Broncos, like you said, aren't going to take one. Tampa or Indianapolis isn't. Tampa Bay's not. The Bears aren't. Niners certainly aren't. Raiders aren't. All of a sudden, you might have guys like Allen and Rosen sitting down there at 10, 11, 12.
Baker Mayfield still hanging around.
Baker Mayfield, yeah, that's what I mean. And again, I'm going back to the Cardinals. If one of those guys is there, you've got to take him. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
I think that it has to be their number one priority if you're the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You've got, I don't know if one of these quarterbacks is going to be able to, lift Larry Fitzgerald's final years of his career here. The defense needs some help too, because they released Tyrann Mathieu because they didn't want to pay the amount of money that he wanted, and he wasn't going to take a pay cut. So Honey Badger is a free agent.
That'd be a good pickup. You know what? Cleveland.
Speaking of defensive guys that got let go, Richard Sherman gets cut from the Seahawks. Signs with the 49ers.
I tell you what, there are two teams I'm looking at on this draft.
It's a shame Crabtree is not still around.
Two teams I'm looking at on the draft right now that I think are going to be. I don't think I'm surprising anybody by saying the 49ers are going to be a whole lot better next year. But I'll tell you who to keep your eye on are the Chicago Bears. I think they are quietly putting together a pretty good football team, and if Trubisky can turn around and turn out to be a good quarterback, they're going to be dangerous next year, I think.
Yeah,
and they're at a good spot in the draft. I like the direction they're headed. I'd have to ask Andy; he'd know more about it than I would, but it sure looks to me like they're headed in the right direction. They could be like the breakout team next year.
I think their problem is coaching also.
Yeah, who do they got? Like Charles Nagy, who was a pitcher for the Indians. No, I don't know what's his name. What is his name? That doesn't matter.
Was it? It wasn't Adam. No, Adam Gase went to.
No, it's the guy's last name is Nagy. I can't remember his first name, but anyway.
Did they get a new coach?
Yeah,
because John Fox left. Who the hell is their coach?
It's like something Nagy. I can't remember his last name. Let's see, Bears coach.
Matt Nagy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas City offensive coordinator. Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
Oh, the Chiefs have got Mahomes. I was going to say they're kind of in need of a quarterback too, but I guess not.
No, they like Mahomes enough to get rid of Alex Smith.
That's the thing, though. Do you think that was? Sometimes I think that teams react to the fans too much. Like, is Mahomes that good, or are people just tired of Alex Smith?
I mean, if you're the Chiefs, it's just a matter of you've been so good for a sustained period of time now, and you still haven't done anything. And is that Alex Smith's fault? I don't know. Is it Andy Reid's fault? Probably, but it's the same thing that all these teams run into. We talk about this, whether it's the Capitals or the Sharks or the Oakland A's or whoever. And now it's passed on to the Chiefs, where you're really good, but you just can't.
Yeah.
You just can't win. Like you are a legitimately good team. There's no denying that the Chiefs are a good team. They have proved themselves to be in the top third of the NFL's teams, of recent years.
Right.
But they're just not good enough. What more do you want them to do?
Yeah, they're at that point, like you said, like with the Sharks, Capitals, etc. That you either got to say, okay, you just got to start over. And I don't think the Chiefs are necessarily like rebuilding or whatever, but it was just time to make a change. They weren't going to get it done with the team set up the way it was. So give Mahomes a shot, make some moves, and see what happens. And hopefully it works for him. I don't know. It's Andy Reid's a pretty good coach, but he's just got some problems that makes him he's not reliable.
Got the same disease Bruce Boudreau has. You're really good. You just somehow your teams manage to crap their pants in the most inopportune times,
right?
Every single year.
But yeah, there's a lot of player movement this year in the NFL. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Was there any big ones? Other big ones that we're missing?
There's been a lot. I don't know. Let's see. I'm trying to find like a list of just everybody that signed elsewhere, but
like I mentioned the transaction the Rams made. I think that those are huge. Reportedly, they're talking to Ndamukong Suh right now too.
Yeah.
Which, if you a defensive line that has Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh on it,
right?
Good God.
Well, they beef up that secondary, man. I mean, I don't know. They're another one that's going to be very tough next year.
They've got that D line. They beefed up the secondary with Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters. And they traded away Alec Ogletree.
I was a little surprised by that.
That's just to free up money ultimately, and it does make the linebackers a little bit worse. But I think the linebackers they have are still quite serviceable. So if you can rush the quarterback and stop everything up front with that D line, and then lock down with the corners, I don't know what the hell else you're going to do. Trying to beat the Rams defense.
Yeah.
Assuming everything plays out. Because the other thing they're doing is they're still molding it more and more to Wade Phillips's design, which he's proven himself to be a pretty good D coordinator when he's not a head coach. Trying to think what else. Marcus Pouncey or Maurice Pouncey signed with the Chargers today, Mike. New center.
That's a good move. That's a good move for the Chargers. He's a good lineman. That's the thing about linemen, though. Nobody gets excited about them, and that.
Well, they should be. They should be.
But that at the draft, I mean, a smart team is going to say the Browns look at it and go, okay, who's the best tackle in this draft? That's who we need to take. But he's not exciting. Yeah. I remember the Oilers back in this is like in the late 80s, early 90s, might have even been before that. But I mean, they were getting all these great draft picks every year, and they were taking linemen, and everybody's like, God, this is boring as hell. But it turned out it made them really, really, really good for a sustained period. You got to put up with it. I don't know.
So here I got a small list. I don't think this is everybody, but anyway, Orlando Scandrick signs with the Redskins. Let's see. John Bostic is a Steeler. Kerry Wynn is
Steelers signed a free agent.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
John
surprising.
Bostic.
They're not normally ones to do the free agency thing too often.
Patrick Robinson, the defensive back, is to the Saints. Cordarrelle Patterson got traded to the Patriots.
Oh, well, watch what happens with him now.
Yeah, right. He's going to be, a MVP. Tyler Eifert is a Bengal. Let's see. Avery Williamson. I don't know who the Jets signed a whole cavalcade of guys. Jordy Nelson, no longer a Packer.
Was that a money move or what?
I really don't know.
Wow, I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers is happy about that. That's his best receiver.
Yeah, but he's also
beat
when you
up.
come off a non-contact ACL injury. That's always tough.
Plus, he still got Cobb and Adams, I guess, but still, I'm surprised by that.
And he signed with the Raiders.
Jordy Nelson did?
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice move for the Raiders if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
But then again, it helps when you've got Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball, too. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Derek Carr, but let's be honest about it here. There's a bit of a drop-off in quality at that point.
Yeah. Matt Barkley is a Bengal.
Really?
LeGarrette Blount is a Lion. He follows Matt Patricia to Detroit. But that doesn't make, like, people were like, oh, they followed Matt Patricia. It's like, well, he was the defensive coordinator. I don't even like, oh, Matt Patricia's going to the Lions. I think I'll go there too. Yeah, I don't think he thought one bit about that.
No. Nice move for the Lions if he stays healthy and can play. That'll help them a lot, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. The Lions are such a weird team always, so it's hard to know.
Yep.
This doesn't help. Some of these lists are just not great because there were just so many of them, and the NFL is just.
I think we pretty much hit on the big names and the quarterback moves and stuff. Yeah,
I think those are all the big names.
I just want to say, while we're still talking about Joe Thomas, they should put the guy in the Hall of Fame just for enduring his career here, and then being a class act all the way about it. I mean, the guy. I mean, I don't even know if he ever even played for a winning team.
No, he did not.
If he was here when they went 10-6 that time or not, but never once.
I don't believe so.
Wow, that is just a shame because he's a real talent, and
he kept committing to Cleveland. He never wanted to leave.
I know. That's what I mean. You got to give him credit for that. I think it was maybe a tad idiotic, but can't knock him for doing it. We are closing in on NHL Stanley Cup playoff territory, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's roughly 10 games for everybody. 11 games left for everybody.
It's funny. I was thinking about that today, that we have talked about hockey maybe like 3 times since football season ended, which is just amazing to me on this show.
It's just kind of hard because some of the top teams kind of ran away with things at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Vegas and the season they're having, but we haven't really gotten into the nuts and bolts too much this year, which is unusual for us.
Well, it's been kind of a middle of the road NHL season, honestly. And now that we're at the end, and like in the West, for example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams within 5 points of each other. For those last, and you can even say St. Louis is only a point out of the playoffs as well. It's such a jumble that literally the standings are shaken up every single night, so it's hard to comment exactly on like, this team, oh man, it's just one team is going to not win the right amount of games, and they're going to be left out of it in the West. And in the East, things have been kind of stale. I mean, Washington's been ahead. Pittsburgh's caught up to them a little bit. Tampa's been ahead for a while, but Boston's coming up. But, the top 3 teams in the Atlantic have been the top 3 teams in the Atlantic for the majority of the season.
Look at Mike's Maple Leafs, though, man. That's got to be nice after that rough stretch you went through there for a few years.
Yes, it is. It's very nice. It's very nice. I'm very happy with how the season's turned out.
And now you get the chance to, if the standings hold, you get that chance to vanquish some demons.
I mean, Boston's looking really good right now, but at the same time, I've seen this team go toe-to-toe with Tampa, and I wouldn't write them out against Boston. I think this team can definitely beat the Boston Bruins, and who the hell knows? It's entirely possible that Boston can. I mean, Toronto is playing Tampa tomorrow, and Toronto victory there wouldn't improve them in the standings, but it would allow Boston a chance to eat closer. So who the hell knows? For all we know, the standings could end up with Tampa and Toronto playing the first round. So I'm very happy about how this season's gone, and I like.
And that'd work out well for you.
It would. And. It would, and I like I think Toronto has a fighting chance against either Tampa or Boston, so I'm fine. I'm fine with how things are shaken up so far. But let's talk a bit about, not a playoff team, of course, but I was reading an ESPN article earlier today that they were going on about the teams that are on the bubble that won't make it in. Mm-hmm. Or probably won't make it in because nothing's set in stone yet, but we're kind of nearing the end. And I found another article which claimed that it is a crying shame, a travesty against hockey time, that the Carolina Hurricanes are going to miss the playoffs.
Well, here's the thing. Be better.
Yeah. Everyone has been freaking out. Every analytics, pro analytics hockey writer on the internet has been freaking out over the dual happenings that are the Hurricanes missing the playoffs and Ron Francis getting promoted out of his job.
Yeah, well, that the Ron Francis one I get. You know, I know people are being snarky about it and saying, well, they're just mad because the analytic friends of the writers are now possibly out of their jobs. The thing that's a little bit scary about that is supposedly the new owner, Tom Dundon, wants to be, kind of learned. He's from Texas, and he wants to emulate Mark Cuban's ownership style, in which he kind of, as the owner, he also, I guess this is also very much Jerry Jones, whereas the owner, you're a little bit more hands-on and, kind of dictate things yourself. And I don't know if that's going to work because, he doesn't seem like he's a guy that knows his hockey quite yet. He's a guy that wanted to buy a professional sports team, and they were the Carolina Hurricanes to have.
I mean,
maybe he likes hockey enough, but generally, general managers probably know more about hockey than
the fact that he wants to run them like Mark Cuban runs the Dallas Mavericks, and the fact that he wants to learn how to manage a hockey team, like that could get ugly quickly.
I'm just going to say this: how many Texas businessmen do you know that are knowledgeable enough about hockey to run a team? I got to think that list is pretty short, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I forgot the Carolina Hurricanes even existed, so I guess the fact that they might miss the playoffs is kind of important.
Well, at the very least, they're going to make money off that Hartford Whalers swag, so
right.
That's fun.
Well, they're over 500. I mean, that's something, right?
Well, no, and look, and this has been the argument for people against the Hurricanes too, and I'm right behind them on it. You can be these analytics darlings, and you can have the best analytics in the world, but if your goaltending sucks and you're not scoring goals, then you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they have a minus 31 goal differential right now. You don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Well, what's the big thing? I mean, why is it a travesty that they're not going to make it, other than the fact that their record's not good enough? I mean, what's the problem here?
People just are trying to champion the analytics movement in hockey.
The Hurricanes followed the analytics model and came up short, and now all of the analytics fans are trying to champion the movement and making excuses for the fact this team that followed their ideology sputtered out.
Well, I think first off, if you're going to follow a team like how to put it together, I do what Vegas is doing. I don't know what the hell it is, but someone needs to figure it out.
That thing is going to explode into a fiery burst.
Sure, it is, but it's seriously.
Also, you really don't need. It's not even analytics with Vegas. It's holding a gun to the head of the rest of the league and being able to pilfer as many quality second liners as you can get without opposition.
That's why Seattle is demanding the same rules for them. But
with the analytics and stuff like that, I mean, that's all well and good. But like Zach said, if you don't have goaltending, that kind of
their problem is the last two goaltenders that they've put money on. Well, okay, three. So they had Cam Ward, who they've just undyingly have this devotion to. And just can't seem to quit him for
I
whatever
can't
reason.
Quit you, Cam Ward.
And then they've gone on the hot backup train. The same way that teams go after the hot backup quarterbacks.
Right.
You see a hot backup goalie. Well, he needs to be freed and be our starting goaltender. Well, here's the thing. So Eddie Lack was, he had a pretty decent start to his career in Vancouver. But then went to Carolina and wasn't good and hasn't been good in other places and is out of the league already. Then you have Scott Darling, who was the backup for the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I'm just going to throw an idea out there, and Mike, I don't know if you can back me up on this one, but I would say that the team that's won 3 Stanley Cups, leading from the back with their defense, is much different than the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yes.
In terms of a defensive structure.
Yes.
That's why that's kind of the knock on Corey Crawford is the Blackhawks system kind of helps.
Scott Darling did not excel outside of that.
Yeah. It's pretty clear that Scott Darling was the beneficiary of the Chicago Blackhawks and Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook and Nicholas Almelson and all the rest. And then on the other side of it, Jeff Skinner's is a really nice player offensively, and they have a bunch of these other guys that they have talent, they supposedly have all this promise, but they're just not. They don't score enough. Like, it's not even that the goal differential's down. They're at 194 goals right now, which is kind of piss poor. That's 10 more than the Detroit Red Wings, who are 10 points behind Carolina. And it's what is that? Like 14 less than the New York Islanders, who have the same goal differential as they do. It's just, I'm so over that Carolina Hurricanes story. Like, Ron Francis probably, I guess he's done an okay job, but not okay enough to get the team in the playoffs still.
Well, how long has he been at it? How long has this plan been taking place? That's the real thing here.
Well, Ron Francis,
like, if he's been working at this for 5 years and this is the best they can do, then no, it didn't work. If they started, say, last year, well, then yeah, they're making great progress. It just depends on how long it's been taking place, I suppose.
He was named the general manager in 2014.
So this would be 4 years. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably not working as well as they hoped.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, people also like him because he's a former Whaler. He's a guy that's been in the league for a long time, won cups with the Penguins and with the Hurricanes. He's a fan favorite sort of thing. So that's, people are up in arms about that. But it's just like, if the team's not good enough, then the team's not good enough. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're not going to make the playoffs, but you're just not good enough. Yeah,
I don't know why they're not making the playoffs is somehow more important than, say, the Canadiens or the Rangers not making it, but okay.
The Hurricanes have not made the playoffs since 2009.
All right.
And they finished in the 2009. So they finished since then in the Eastern Conference. They have finished 11th, 9th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 10th, and 12th last season, and they're currently, right now, they would be 10th.
Well, see, so it's a pretty good year overall for them. I don't know.
Sure. It's just
you don't ever want to get on don't get on the wrong side of the analytics people. It just drives them nuts. I'm sure you can find baseball people out there that are still just madder than all hell if the Kansas City Royals won the World Series a couple of years ago.
But look at baseball. Look at the Oakland A's. Imagine if the Oakland A's, like, Moneyball worked to an extent because the A's were really good and they made the playoffs a bunch of times. They didn't win, but they still won a couple division titles, made the playoffs, all that sort of stuff. But imagine if the A's were, say, third place in the AL West every year.
Oh, yeah.
Would Billy Bean still have a job? No.
They wouldn't be. He might still have a job, but no one's claiming him to be a genius or anything at this point. No. Well, I don't know.
And the thing with analytics in hockey is that it's like the analytic number just breaks down to total shot attempts, which means that you're controlling the percentage of play, sure. But you can outshoot a team every single night, but if you don't have more goals than them at the end of it, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, I used to, when I would play NHL on the PlayStation, I called it the Mayhem offense, where I just shot every time the puck came to somebody, I just fired it away. I didn't win a lot like that,
Again, because what is probably the most crucial position on a hockey team? Your goaltender.
Yeah.
Right? You can outshoot a team every single night, but if your goalie has, a high 800s, low 900 save percentage, then you're toast.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, you can average 4 goals a game or 5, but if you're giving up 6, then you're not, well, obviously,
Right.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway. Otherwise,
is this going to be
jump? We'll see what happens.
If my Blue Jackets make the playoffs, so this will be, 2 years in a row, 3? It's an unprecedented run of
2.
success, I know that. Oh, just 2? Well, that's a first, I think.
But I think it's 3 out of 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at them go.
And right now they would be playing the Capitals.
How great would it be if they took out the Capitals in the first round? Come on.
I mean, look, what the hell do you want? I mean, look, the Capitals don't deserve to be anyone's pick to win the Stanley Cup until they actually prove that they can do it.
No. And even we're even past the point of where I've heard some people say this. Well, this will be the year they win it because no one's picking them. No, we already passed that year. There was a year where nobody's picking them, so they're going to win it this time.
That was like 3 years ago, wasn't it? That we were at the nobody's picking them at this point. They're not going to do it. It's just one of those things where a team just gets to a point where you just go, they're just not going to do it. It's as simple as that. It's like the Sharks, or I'm sure we've seen it in football. In baseball. Well, the A's are a perfect example. We just go, yep, you know what? Doesn't matter. They're not going to do it. But it would be funny if my Blue Jackets take them out in the first round. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they got to blow it up at that point, right?
I think they have, but,
anyway.
I don't know.
All right.
Then the Blue Jackets will only play Pittsburgh in the second round. So
yeah, well, that's all right. Hey, just getting to the second round would be cool with me. We'll worry about the rest after that.
Yeah.
All right, anyway.
Before we go, we still haven't talked on the NCAA tournament.
Oh, well, there's not much to say other than the 16 seed taking down. Well, a lot of upsets.
I think they said that this is when you add up all the seed numbers, this is tied for the highest total number after the second round.
I know that
I think the other one was 86.
The region that the UMBC and a couple others, like Kentucky at 5, is the highest seed left in that region.
Yeah, and that's never happened before.
Yeah,
where a region has not had its top 4 seeds. But the UMBC thing, it's probably the 16/1 was the last great upset.
Yep.
That we were kind of waiting to see happen, right? I can't think of anything else that hasn't been done at this point.
Well, did you watch any of that game?
I watched the end, and so I don't know how the game kind of went. I just know that Virginia was god awful, and they somehow lost to the 16 seed by 20 points.
I mean, it wasn't like, it was an upset, obviously, because if you had told me a team named University of Maryland, Baltimore County, called the Retrievers, was in the tournament, I would have said you made it up. It sounds
That's the best name ever, by
isn't it, though?
Yeah.
So good.
But it wasn't, it was a huge upset. And like you said, Zach, it's probably the last one left, short of like the Browns winning the Super Bowl or something. That's about it. We've seen the rest. But they kicked Virginia's ass. It wasn't one of those miracle last shots we hung on for dear life. They just mopped the floor with the Virginia Cavaliers. It was just like, with 10 minutes to go, you said they're going to do this. You knew it. They had them beat. It was just a pretty nice performance. And who they lose to yesterday? Kansas State.
Kansas State.
They just couldn't make their shots yesterday. I think they played well enough to beat Kansas State, but they couldn't get the ball to go. They couldn't get it to fall.
The stat that I saw that was amazing was UMBC was within 3 points 18 different times.
Yeah.
And that just tells you, they just couldn't get the
shots to fall. It was as simple as that.
And at the end of the game, Kansas State was giving them the opportunities. Just eventually, Kansas State said, okay, I guess we'll make the basket now, and they made it. So.
Yeah, K-State made a run with about 2 minutes to go that finally finished them off. But I was listening to the pregame show before that one, and they said that the Retrievers usually make 10 threes a game, and I don't think they came anywhere close to that in the game against Kansas State. And that was the big difference. They couldn't hit the shots. They had plenty of good looks and lots of opportunities, just couldn't get them to fall. But they're a pretty good team. But and then I forget what the other big upset was. I know Marshall knocked off somebody.
There was a bunch. Let me pull up the bracket right now. Michigan State was out.
Right.
Xavier was a number 1 seed that's out.
Xavier got beat too?
Xavier got beat. North Carolina got beat.
I knew North Carolina got beat. I mean, the only thing, I was flipping through channels and I saw 16 seed leading a number 1, and I thought, if this happens, it's historic, so I want to watch it. And that's what got my interest going in it.
Right, but even like you said, it was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah,
where it's like when you see these big upsets, you want it to be like a buzzer beater.
Yep.
Or it was just like, no, Virginia didn't show up. And the other team made all of its shots.
When Nevada knocked off
Cincinnati
yesterday. That's you kind of wanted it to be like that, but it wasn't. It was just it was an ass kicking. Simple as that.
Yeah. So you have Kansas State was a 9 over an 8, but that's not really an upset. Kentucky went through. Buffalo knocked off Arizona, which was cool.
Yeah.
But Buffalo lost to Kentucky. Villanova is, I think, are they the last number 1 seed left? Yeah. Villanova is in the what is this, Sweet 16? 9 over an 8. West Virginia. Marshall was a 13 that beat Wichita State, and then they lost to West Virginia. Florida beat St. Bonaventure, and then Texas Tech hit a buzzer beater to beat Florida. Purdue is through. Butler beat Arkansas. Here's your big ones. You get Nevada beat Cincinnati, like you mentioned. And your real Cinderella at this point would be Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, the Fighting Eyeballs, or whatever they're called.
I don't know what they're called, but I know that they have their mascot essentially is this nun, who's been pretty fun. This 98-year-old nun.
Oh, I thought you meant they had like an actual mascot costume that was a nun. I thought that's great. That's better than Mitch on the bench. Come on.
No. Okay, and Kansas is the other number 1 seed. It's still in here. They're playing Clemson, who's a 5. Syracuse was an 11. They beat ASU in a play-in game where ASU was just garbage. Then they beat TCU.
Syracuse had to play a play-in game?
Yeah.
Wow, that's insulting almost.
But so Syracuse is now, they beat TCU as a 6. They beat Michigan State, who's a 3. I saw a stat on SportsCenter that Jim Boeheim has the best winning percentage of all time as a double-digit seed. He's 7-1 as a double seed, and that one loss came in the Elite 8, or was it the Elite 8 or the Final 4, where they were a 10 seed? They
were also one of the before the 16 seed. They were one of the teams that got beat by. They were a 2 seed that got knocked up by a 15 back in '93.
Yeah,
Richmond beat them, but.
So now you have this matchup in the Elite 8 that, on paper, it's an 11 versus a 2, but it's also Syracuse versus Duke.
Yeah.
Where it's just upsets, but it's also, blue bloods.
Well, I think that's the thing with the tournament now, especially with the one-and-done rule for the NBA and all that, is that a team like the Retrievers or a Marshall or somebody, they can't get the top flight recruits, but you can get 5 or 6, 3-star guys, keep them around for 2 or 3 years, and you turn out to be a pretty good basketball team. And I think that's why you're seeing more and more of these upsets as we go along.
Yeah. Texas A&M is a 7. They're playing Michigan. Texas A&M beat number 2 North Carolina.
Yeah.
Gonzaga beat your Buckeyes.
Yeah. Honestly.
Gonzaga, maybe a shot to finally make the Final Four.
Never know. I know that Ohio State basketball is like an afterthought around here. It's like, oh, that's right, the Buckeyes are on. Hey, look at that.
Well, they're sometimes pretty good.
Yeah. Well, they made the Final Four, in 2007, I think. They went all the way to the championship game, yeah. So you never know. Anyway, it was fun, though, watching the 16 finally knock off the 1. It was bound to happen eventually, and it was cool to see. Kind of anticlimactic, but it was fun.
Right. It's it was cool to see, but anticlimactic. And I've been fast forwarding through a lot of Bill Simmons podcasts lately because they're so NBA heavy right now. And by the way, Greg, remember your experiment when you tried to get into the NBA? Yeah. So listening to Bill Simmons talk about the NBA, and every time he's like, well, but these other teams are good and they could, and one of the conversations he was having was whether, the question that he posed was to the guys, do you think that it's that it's just such an afterthought that it's going to be Rockets, Warriors in the Western Final. How, like, are you just giving up the ghost on the rest of the West? And the guy said, yeah. And Bill Simmons was like, well, but these are matchups, and they could be a bad matchup for this team and that team. And I'm like, this isn't a good argument. You're
trying very hard to convince yourself that it's competitive.
It's wishful thinking, right?
Yeah. It's just. I'm sure that some of these teams are fun to watch, and he listed off all the reasons that some of these teams are fun. But then when it came to like, well, are they going to beat this team? Well, they could with the thing if this happened and that happened and this, and one of his things is like, oh, the Warriors are just so bored, and oh my God, they're so bored, and they're gonna. That's not good when a team plays that way. They're gonna go into the playoffs kind of slumping and whatever, and it's like, and then the other guy's like, yeah, but Bill, they're also still 3 games behind the Rockets. Like they're apparently out of sync and out of touch and, you know, bored and not having fun with the season and just waiting for the playoffs. But they're also still the second best record in the league. So like,
and I got a sneaking suspicion that once the playoffs start, they won't be bored anymore. Yeah, I mean, I could see it. Yeah, it's probably a legit point that they're basically, they know they're just working their way through the regular season to get to the playoffs. Okay, fine, but that doesn't mean they're going to continue to play. To keep sleepwalking once the playoffs start.
Anyway, so what I was trying to get to, I don't want to get it sidetracked on our NBA sucks tangent that we get on. But his argument was like, yeah, this is one of the best upsets of all time because it's the best you could ever see from the NCAA tournament where you have the number 1 overall seed playing a 16, and not only do they lose, but they get beat down. Like that's as numbers-wise, as big of an upset as you could possibly pull in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
But he was saying the discussion then was, but is this still the greatest upset of all time? And I don't think you can say that.
No, I don't think so. Do you?
No. Like the ones he pointed out are Tyson and Buster Douglas.
Right.
Georgetown, Villanova, Miracle on Ice, of course.
Right. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was huge because it was a 16 and a 1, but I'm going to go back to what I was saying before. The game is different now. The gap between a 16 seed and a 1, while still big, is not insurmountable like it used to be. And
Virginia, despite being the number 1 overall seed this year, if you took this Virginia team and took them back like 10 years.
Yeah.
You put them up against some of the best Duke teams or some of the best Syracuse teams or North Carolina teams, like it's not close.
Right.
College basketball just isn't as good as it once was. So yes, a 16 over 1 is amazing because it hadn't happened before, but it also hadn't happened before because there was a much bigger disparity.
Exactly. I think
the better teams were just so much better. And so if a 16 back in the day had upset a 1, it would have been monumental. Yeah, but now it's just like, yeah, sure. I guess
it's big, but I wouldn't put it on the level of like the ones you brought up. The like Tyson Douglas, Miracle on Ice, that kind of thing. Villanova over Georgetown. That God, that was a great game. But yeah, I don't see it. I mean, sure, it's great, but I'm sure it's like up there. But I don't. It's not like Jets over the Colts in the Super Bowl or whatever. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. Could be, but I wouldn't put it there.
And I think the other thing that I think it would have been a cooler story had UMBC been able to win one more game.
Yeah.
And nobody should be expecting that of a 16 seed. But, had they made it to the Sweet 16, then it would have just been like, holy crap. And
right.
They could talk about it for a full week. You get that kind of building out from it. And now it's just kind of like it happened on a day. It came and went.
Plus, I think, too, that, like you brought up, had it been a buzzer beater and one of those type of things, it probably would have had a little more – gas to get through the rest of the week, but it was such a blowout that it was just kind of like, okay.
Well, and not to mention, and this is just based on what they've done with the broadcast, and this is a good thing that all the games are available, that you can get them anywhere. But the game was on True TV.
Yeah.
You had Jim Nantz, of all people, calling a game on True TV.
Right.
True.
I get it.
You don't like that. Well, it's sort of different. Like every now and then, right? They'll put a hockey game on USA Network. It's just part of the corporate family.
Coming up after NCAA basketball, the OJ trial revisited. Come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. It's
divorce court right after NCAA basketball on True TV.
Right. And Mike makes a good point where it's like now the NHL playoffs, we get every single game now, but now it's like, Well, this is going to do it for Market Watch. Coming up next,
Right.
Oh God, yeah, on MSNBC.
yes, CNBC.
CNBC.
Coming up next, a rerun of Shark Tank.
Right.
Following the NHL playoffs. Yeah,
Right. It's like that with every sport except the NFL now, though. It's the same with baseball, like the playoffs.
These companies, these broadcast companies, they've always had these side ventures that were kind of separate from the mothership, if you will. And it's no shock that it's sort of like, hey, we have this broadcast real estate. Let's use it.
Yeah.
We've got a 68-team tournament to broadcast, people. Let's use as many outlets as we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. We get all the games, but it is funny sometimes. Like you said, right after Market Watch, NHL hockey, it's like, okay. But, yeah. Anyway, is that it? We done?
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of Market Watch, do you see Facebook lost like $5 billion today?
I don't know how Facebook makes money. I guess, ad revenue, I get it, but...
It was on the stock market. Like they're publicly traded now.
$5 billion with a B?
Billion with a B.
Wow, that sucks.
Because they got involved with there was like a leak of personal information to a political consulting site, something like that.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Facebook is fucked up. That's all I know. But anyway, all right. We're going to call it a night. We will see you next time. Remember, vote in the GTOV via our Twitter feed at Basically Sports. You can also go to, I think it's basicallyasportshow.tumblr.com and the boards and all that other stuff. And, subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and the YouTubes. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Adios.